they have the potential to grow and make contribution to the economy. India is fortunate to have a strong base on the middle class, and India's economic growth model can sustain only if we have a robust middle class, and their aspirations, their requirements are taken care by the government.
It seems they have not been in sync with the aspiration of this middle class, growing 300 million plus middle class of this country, thanks to a growing service sector and also more and more women participation. So what are your views on that?
One thing I find that they lack political assertiveness. Importance of middle class in the economic growth and development cannot be undermined.
Just because middle class doesn't have a collective voice or doesn't constitute, if I put it in a very clear way, that a so-called vote bank, that is why most of the time voices, even if they want, it goes unheard.
But now there is a strong agitation. Who will benefit out of this reform? Farmers will one hand, and another is the consumer. And who is the major consumer in the country? The consumer class, middle class, those who will benefit from any reform process in the long run, from the economic growth, etc., have to be more vocal and create a narration which supports economic reforms.
Welcome viewers to the conversation. Today we have with us someone very special, Mr. Gopal Agarwal, National Spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party. So we'll have a conversation with him and try to get a sense of the middle class, their political economic relevance and other aspects related to the middle class. So welcome Mr. Agarwal to Middle Class Hub, India's first platform exclusively for the middle class.
Thank you, Alankaji, and I would wish all your viewers a happy new year, and to you also.
Same to you, sir. Same to you. Sir, to start with, I would like your views on, in helping us frame not universal, but at least an Indian definition of the middle class. Can you help us define who constitutes the Indian middle class today?
I think in the middle class can also be further divided. People, those who are above the below poverty line, is the lowest strata of the middle class. Then there are people who are salaried and middle income group that we consider, and then there is the upper echelon of the middle class, and finally we have the rich people. I think the income of more than 10 lakh a year, then they can not be considered. I think they can be part of the upper middle class, and then after that, after 30 lakh, I think they can. This is a rough because there is no bifurcation like that. But definitely, I think anybody having an income of more than 25 to 30 lakh taxable income should not be part of the middle class. But anybody having income from above, who is out of the below poverty line, he can be called as a lower strata of middle class.
Sir, now I'll come to, I want you to talk us through what you think and how you think the middle class has transformed the political landscape in the post-liberalization India. If you could just share your views on that.
One important thing that I immediately comes to my mind is about the consumption capacity of this middle class. As their income rises, their aspiration rises, they are basically part of the entrepreneurship class. They have an entrepreneurship zeal. They are an aspirational class, and they have the potential to grow and make contribution to the economy. And as far as the other part of the economy are concerned with regard to middle classes, that they are the group which can create consumption in the economy, and any private investment other than government social welfare schemes come from the consumption capacity of the middle class. If there is a high demand for anything and quality product, demand for even slight luxury, what you can call, but as their activities increases, their aspiration increases, their demand will increase, and that will create the demand in the whole economy and will attract private investment. So they are important for the government to some sort of resource generation also. And even because once the middle people from the bottom strata of below poverty line move to the middle class level, so there is a roadmap through which they demand their demand and requirement for better and better qualitative products, competition, all these economic jargons which are helpful in the development of any developing economy, and uh, um, for them middle class is very important, and India has a very large chunk of middle class which participate into the labor activity also. So I think this is very important class, and India is fortunate to have a strong base on the middle class, and India's economic growth model can sustain only if we have a robust and robust middle class, and their aspirations, their requirements are taken care by the government.
So, as you rightly said, it's a this class holds huge economic importance and plays a crucial role in the development of the country. But, sir, may I submit this? Successive governments over the decades, over the last few years, they have not been. It seems they have not been in sync with the aspiration of this middle class, growing 300 million plus middle class of this country, thanks to a growing service sector and also more and more women participation. So, what are your views on that? Why do you think the successive governments over the last, say, post-liberalization, if I come, this class, there is a growing sense that often they are overlooked. So can you just explain why is it that it doesn't feature most of the time in the priority list of the government?
I think that's an important question that you are raising, and it is pricking many of the people from the middle class. In democratic setup, what happens is that the assertiveness is missing in this class. Political assertiveness, I think, is missing. I am a professional and I have been working in many professional institutes. I have been interacting with small businesses, salaried people and professional people, and they all belong to the category of what we can call a middle class. What is happening is, one thing I find that they lack political assertiveness, and second thing is they are so busy in their economic well-being, family and other things, that they sometimes ignore the importance of interacting with the political class. When in any country like India, which is a vibrant democracy where every vote counts, and if you are a big chunk of votes, then there is no way that any government can ignore you. But still your aspirations, etc., are not being taken care of. If you feel that, then you need to increase your participation in the decision making. You have to be assertive on your demands also, and at times I have found them not to be active in policy making at the initial stages. And when any policy is formulated, implemented, then there is certain resentment, hue and cry, but that time it becomes late. I think their initial participation, assertive participation, and continuous interaction with the government and political class is more required. They generally think, they have a feeling that laid back approach, that government will automatically think about them. I don't think this is in democracy is possible, because you see poor classes have a assertive system and they just get, because even overall if you see state has a concept of welfare state, and and the definition of welfare state across democracies is that look for the welfare and benefit of the classes which are left out of the economic activity. People, government and the political class thinks that they are competent enough to look after their interests. So that is sometimes is the cause, but ultimately now their aspirations, their requirements, their interaction, their assertiveness is also finding its way into the mindset of the political parties, and that will change, because importance of middle class in the economic growth and development cannot be undermined now. That is important thing. And certain things I have found that after independence, that's another important part that I find is missing in our thought mindset narration, is after independence our political bosses were somewhat more inclined on the socialism, and they were influenced by leftist or communist thought, etc., where poor people are some kind of glorification of the poor people takes place. And this mindset also has resulted in middle class or aspirational class or assertive class being aspirational class being left out of the political dispensation thought. But I think now they are finding importance.
I think you raise a very important point, and this message will go out loud and clear to all the viewers, to all the families in India, that you need to politically assert yourself, be more seen, in the political spectrum, in the discussion and discourse, so that the governments of the day, the political parties also take you in their list of priorities. So that's a very important thing. At times, middle class also has to look inwards. And as someone was putting it to me in a very, I would say, direct way, that you see, often we hear that any economic policies of the government, not just India, across the world, that rich gets richer, poor gets poorer. But somehow in this narrative, middle class is missing. There is not much of discourse. And I want you to draw to the current issues which we are facing right now in the national capital and national capital region. Farmers' protests are going on. I don't want you to comment on that, because already it's the government is in talks with the farmers. The matter is sub judice. But I have a larger question, right? Now, just because middle class doesn't have a collective voice, or doesn't constitute, if I put it in a very clear way, that a so-called vote bank, that is why most of the time voices, even if they want, it goes unheard. I'll give you one example, sir. You must be aware of PMC Bank scam, Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank. Now, about 70 to 80% depositors, senior citizens coming from different strata of the middle class, lower middle class, upper middle class. And whenever we open our phone lines, we get inundated with calls. I mean, there are people for last 1.5 years. Now, their grievances, which is very justified also, that they are not asking for any loan waiver, they are not asking for any bailout, they are asking for their own money. But still, somehow it gets, the process gets delayed in technicalities and the issues that involved. So how do you look at that? Is it fair just because middle class doesn't have a collective voice? Or like, for example, farmers right now, all the highways, just because middle class doesn't block roads or have an organizing capability. So is that also a reason why often the voices go unheard?
I think you have raised an important issue here about the farmers' agitation, and I was also interested in bringing out this as a case study and example for what I have said earlier. What is happening is certain classes in India are playing a victim card. And I know that agriculture sector is in poor shape in India, and it has been in poor shape for last 70 years. Many political outfits always were talking about the benefit and upliftment of the farmers class, but that was not done. If government had tried for almost 65 to 70 years for upliftment of one particular segment of the society, I don't think there is any problem in implementing that. 70 years is a long time to uplift a segment, but still farmers are same demand, same problems. One thing. Second thing is, so certain political class have a vested interest in keeping particular segments into that continuous demand situation, that we will take care of you. You are poor, you are victim. They are playing victim card. And I find three important areas in this category. One is the agriculture sector, one is the Dalit, and the third is important area is about this minorities. Every political outfit, you will see their narrations for last 65 to 70 years. We will take care of you, we will do this for you. But why? Sachar committee report find out that nothing has been done for the minorities, Muslims. What Dalit politics is played such an important role in the certain parties, but still they are finding difficulty. Now farmers, government has been doing so much, still farmers are demanding more. And one thing is that government is, we have spent a lot of political capital in bringing these three reforms. Large sections of the farming sectors and reports, agricultural economists reports show that these market reforms are needed for upliftment of farmers. And then it has been brought, but now there is a strong agitation. Who will benefit out of this reform? Farmers will one hand, and another is the consumer. And who is the major consumer in the country? It is the middle class. And the narration, how it is working on, it is most easier for any government to just repeal these laws and sit in keeping in a status quo. Those who have spent their political capital in this, how much problem they are facing, we should understand. But I don't see there is a strong narration on in support of this this reforms from the people, particularly middle class should also, because they are the consumers. They will benefit from better product, better competition, low cost, etc. Now the middleman is everything that is being snatched away from the farmers and the consumers. So there has to be a strong voice on reforms and support for the government to indulge into, to take reform. That's important thing. Second important part is that whenever there is an economic reform, the benefits of those reforms come with a time lag, and the benefits are spread over a larger sections of the people. And if they are not vocal and they do not participate and change the narration, reforms are very difficult. So I think earlier my point was that the consumer class, middle class, those who will benefit from any reform process in the long run, from the economic growth, etc., have to be more vocal and create a narration which supports economic reforms. And a voting pattern is based on good governance, good economic roadmap, etc. But Indian democracy at times we find is more inclined to vote based on this vested interest, stakeholders interest, or these things. So these are the issues, but we are trying to change it. We are strict on bringing in reforms, although there are opposition We brought GST reform, we brought IBC reform, now agriculture sector reforms, even labor reform. There will be big hue and cry when labor reforms will be notified in April 21. But ultimately, this will help the economic growth, and that will help the middle class and economy to grow and benefit to be received by everybody. So through your channel and platform, I have been requesting that create a narration in support of right economic policy. That's very important. Otherwise, for any government to spend so much of political capital in a democracy on certain reforms is always difficult and will always be difficult.
That's true, sir. You have put it, you have given a very honest describing the way how things are politically also, and how much political capital the government of the day has to spend in enacting and executing these reforms. Of course, a larger narrative has to be built. One thing I find really interesting is, sir, you mentioned about farmers, you mentioned about Dalits, you mentioned about minorities, all the classes. Some political party or other, they have tried to, capitalize by just trying to project themselves as a protector and well-wisher of these classes. But unfortunately, sir, these are the three classes who remain backward, both financially, socially. So nothing good has happened to them over all these years. And this middle class, which is not that much politically, involved in the process or even in setting up the narrative, somehow they are thriving, and they are also driving the consumer behavior, the consumer pattern, and helping the country move forward. I think ever since post 2014, since Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi came to power, I think there has been a change in the political discourse also, and the reforms that have been brought in by this government, it has yielded rich political dividend also, if I can put it that way, because demonetization, GST, immediately after that, couple of months later, because ours is a country, hardly a year or month goes without any election, we have seen rich political dividend for the BJP. So in a way now it seems the voting class also is realizing that these reforms are very crucial, and they can see through sometimes the political game plan also of being, because the same parties which are for these reforms, they are all on tapes. It doesn't need any investigation. They were all, kind of supporting these laws, these economic reforms. And now, just because of the vote bank or their political compulsion, they are there. So it's really, I would really appreciate through middle class that the government has spent, no doubt, considerable political capital into this, and people are seeing through it. Our platform is also to set the right kind of narrative and agenda, because ours is a time of fake news, and a lot of vested interests are there which propagate their own theories and their own beliefs. So we will continue to do all that, and we hope that the middle class also becomes more and more political assertive, because that's a very strong message and clear message you have given to the middle class. Sir, I would like to, you have said, and I quote, that the middle income group is feeling a lot of pinch and they need some support. So, sir, can you give us a sneak peek and into the budget and say, will the budget take care of the middle class this time?
From the party side, we had a long discussion with the finance minister. We undertook an elaborate exercise from the state, our divisions, state organization, BJP, to hold a similar kind of debate discussions through various stakeholders, and then come out with some suggestions. And 28th, we had a very long meeting, and various state representatives from different states came out with some suggestions. One thing which has come out of this, that this COVID had been very harsh on the economy. Government, under the Atmanirbhar fiscal stimulus package and different packages, has supported the lower strata through direct fund transfer, direct benefit transfers. Lot of money has gone to the rural areas, to the weaker sections, and every sections which need certain help. Farmers even have got a lot of support. For the large industries, manufacturing and other big corporates and even small manufacturing, etc., RBI has done exemplary work by giving a credit line, relaxation in IBC, etc. The middle class has not got that much benefit except moratorium on their
Yes.
EMIs, etc. So there is a feeling, and definitely there is a consensus that middle class in this budget needs some certain stronger support from the government. And I think the government will look into this issue, and there has been a strong suggestion from the party. I cannot say that every suggestion from the party or everybody will be accepted by the government, but surely party with a base of 18 crore members across India, and myself and our some of the members in the central team taking full effort for the better involvement of the public in the stakeholders dialogue, and give a proper feedback to the Ministry of Finance, because I look after the economic affairs, so I know this segment, this working of the government and the party. So we have been very active on that, and we have conveyed that we need certain support for the middle class. And I think from the government statement also, they also realize, they also know, well connected with the people, that middle class should receive certain benefit. It can be in the form of, no, not a direct tax relaxation, because already tax rates are low, and corporate tax is also low, but definitely incentives like standard deviation can come, incentivizing consumptions, certain depreciation norm. There are various there are various options which the government can work for the benefit of middle class. But I think one of the focus area of this budget is and will be the middle benefit to the middle class, which some at point of time slightly feeling that they require more support from the government. And this is an important area. I think this will definitely help. This budget will definitely look into these issues. And if there are certain suggestions from anybody from your side also, they can pass on to me. I am very active on the Twitter through you, or Gopal K Agarwal is my Twitter handle. Anybody can give suggestion, we compile them, or you can collect and give it in 2-3 days, 3-4 days in next coming week. We can definitely pass on to the finance minister for the benefit of the middle class. Second important factor for the middle class in this budget, I think, is, which we have been talking about, is about the inflation. RBI has also said that inflation is over a period may be a worry, though it is cross the upper limit of 6%, it is around more than 7%. So inflation is a worry, and that impacts the middle class. Government is also will look into certain issues which can control inflation. And then inflation is two-way. One is the commodity inflation. That is another part that the RBI and monetary policy and certain government policy can help and control it. And the other important, which will impact the employment generation and middle class and manufacturing sector, small businesses, about the inflation in the raw material cost for manufacturing. They are industry, small businesses have been talking to me and meeting, which are mostly by the medium and upper class, upper middle class entrepreneurs, that raw material, etc., for their manufacturing units is quite rates are being high because of certain policy, import duty restrictions, even FTA, etc., and a certain disintegration mechanism, custom duty, etc. So this is another area which the government surely will look into. We have conveyed that issues, and that will also help the middle class. And about general demand is there about this moratorium, interest rate on the moratorium, that the government, because it requires the financial implications and the credit behavior also. I don't know what can be done about that, but ultimately inflation, raw material costs, food items are important concern, and then this middle class direct benefit, etc., which I have said. I think surely they should expect some good news in this budget.
That's interesting insight, out of this conversation that finally middle class is finding its place in the priorities list of the government, of the national parties like yours, Bharatiya Janata Party, and the benefits are, coming to them, no doubt about that. The only thing is, like at middle class, we have this conversation from across the length and breadth of our great country, and the few days back, we had a conversation with a young boy of owner of Kashmir online store, and it was so fascinating to hear this story, because the more and more I talk to these such people, I get a sense that which is very much in line with the vision of the government of India, that more and more people out of the middle class, lower middle class or upper middle class, they are turning into job creators rather than job seekers. I think this favorable, I would say, environment and facilitating the whole process, creating a favorable ecosystem where more and more people can turn into job creators rather than job seekers. It would do a whole lot of good to this country. And I would request through you to the government of India that let's be more flexible and facilitate more and more such, create more such favorable ecosystem, so that youths are more inclined to creating jobs rather than just seeking jobs.
So for taking cue from your question, I would like young people, I have been interacting with youth and many college students and entrepreneurs. The startup ecosystem is a very important area that is an opportunity for middle class. The Stand Up India, Startup India, Atal Innovation Mission come out with solutions. Service sector area don't only depend on jobs. And as you have mentioned that job creator is more important. So look into various websites of the government. They are quite interactive and very informative. Various ministries websites, there are so many schemes. Even PSUs have come out. I was on the board of Bank of Baroda. We initiated hackathon, bankathon. Or if PSUs are encouraged to go for hackathon, where they will put out some process and product problems which anybody can solve. They will finance even research innovation. Then they will also give an assured buying market for them. So these are important areas. Look into startup, stand up ecosystem, go for it. There is complete market mechanism which will help. Then ODOP is a very good scheme for Uttar Pradesh. I live in Noida. I think you are also based in Noida.
It's great advice.
So one district, one product is an important scheme of the Uttar Pradesh, which can help into developing local कुटीर उद्योग जिसको कहते हैं, तो वो that is an important where government will come out with lot of support. Third is the defense sector, manufacturing in the defense sector we want to reserve for MSME. And there the government initiative on this opening up defense sector for the small medium manufacturers, and that too giving them assured market, signing contract with them will be important area. So defense production can be looked into, is an important area. Then initiative like GEM, government e-market, get them yourself registered in the government e-market. Government plans to procure almost 20 lakh crore annually for PSUs and other through government e-market. No tendering, open, transparent mechanism people should use. I have been interacting with MSME, which belongs to mostly middle classes. They don't know. So young people with education background need to come out with this Then the next, I think, is about initiative like TREADS, that is building has been promoted by Bank of Baroda, NSC, etc., where middle medium entrepreneurs can get their bill discounted, immediate working capital requirement is taken care of. Another area that we are working is about social entrepreneurship. Young people from educated people is that they have a vision, they have a zeal to work for the country, but at the same time they also have a family to look after, have a sufficiently uh, uh, careful free financial life to sustain. So social service, including their self income generation through that positive objective, they need certain ecosystem, and we are creating social entrepreneurship where we don't consider profit as a bad word. Justified profit with a rightful objective of welfare for the society is an important integration mechanism, and we think social stock exchange will be an area where fund requirement of this innovative services sector working by young people will be helped into. So I think these are the initiatives where people need to work and go for. Government has a lot of schemes. They have to be utilized, they have to be studied and taken benefit of. And if any problems they are facing with GST, with GEM, with treats, with startup ecosystem, they can post their suggestions on the Prime Minister's website, mygov.in. The government is quite active. More than 200 people are working day and night to get those suggestions. They can pass on to me also. We will also pass them properly for the government to act upon. So these technological innovation, artificial intelligence, etc., have lot of potential for India to grow and become a strong economic superpower in the coming area globally.
You know what you just said, that we don't consider profit as a bad word. So profit as a bad word, and we also don't consider business as a dirty word, because these things will inspire so many youths in the middle class families to go out and chase their passion, chase their dreams, and create something not just for themselves but also for others, and also in overall, contributing in the development of our great country. Sir, I would like to slightly deviate from here, and I would like.
We will have to wind up also because I have
Yes, sir.
another meeting. Huh?
I understand, sir.
You
So
can give me the
just
last question. Huh?
yeah, sure,
Last
sir. Just
question.
last question. Yeah. Sir, I just your final thoughts on that, because we have been getting a lot of queries on that. US President-elect Biden, he has said that he envisions a foreign policy which is meant for the middle class. Foreign policy for the middle class. Can you just give us some sense? Can that be applicable to India, or is foreign policy got anything to do with the middle class per se?
Uh, for Indian foreign policy, for which how it can benefit the middle class, is that we are very keen to sign up a bilateral trade agreement with European Union and United States, because the FTA with ASEAN has not benefited, and we are trying to rework them because our manufacturing sector was not very competitive, one thing. So for them to make factors of production efficient and create level playing field is the first priority that the government is working on. Once this competitiveness of our manufacturing sector, particularly MSME and small manufacturing, established, and reforms like agriculture, labor, land, power, where we are working in the new industrial policy, logistical policy, e-commerce policy, retail trade policy, import export policy. Once these are properly established, we will have a ecosystem of competitive level playing field for our manufacturing, then they can compete, and then we open them for competition with the ASEAN countries. That is the roadmap that we have thought about. But our integration with European countries and America will help the middle class for our integration into the the global supply chain. We have seen that in pharma industry has done very good. Indian pharma industry has done excellently well. We are a global player in the pharma industry. Even automobile component parts, Indian industry is globally competitive and done very well because they have integrated their supply chain into the global supply chain. And IT industry, you know, in itself, India is a world leader. So areas where sunrise industries have to be looked into. Ultimately, government is an enabler. It cannot set up industries. It cannot provoke people. Ultimately, entrepreneurs have to come forward and work. Whatever their problems, we are ready to solve, discuss, debate. But middle class has to be aspirational. They have to aspire. They have to not depend on doles. Don't ask for doles every time, because definitely government has limitations from the budget size to give doles to the various areas, and wherever government scheme will support, I am very sure whatever you may say or whatever anybody will say, the benefits or direct funds transfer or direct benefits, social welfare benefits has to go to the lower strata of the pyramid, and after that not much resources left. So entrepreneurship etc can come, middle class etc can get benefit from policies implementation, transparency, corruption free environment, enabling environment etc. So there we are working a lot. I think middle class has lot thing to do. And finally, one study I have seen, uh, the America is a global leader in economy, global world leader on economy. 60% of its economic development growth comes from the manufacturing sector, and that too from small businesses, MSME sector. But India, only 15% of manufacturing sector contribution is there for the GDP. This was because there was less focus on the manufacturing sector over last several decades. And that created certain problems of employment. Without manufacturing, you cannot create employment. And without employment, you cannot create economic well-being of a large section of the society. So our focus has shifted to manufacturing sector and create it increase its contribution to the GDP to the tune of 25%. One thing, increase manufacturing sector. In that also, MSME is our focus. And therefore, I think middle class or American policy, if you look into American way of doing things, is that MSME in the manufacturing sector has to be promoted. We have shifted our focus to that, and looking into the aspiration is one area where there can be work. And even this risk diversion strategy, I will not discuss it in detail, but ultimately for last 30 years, China has shown growth through being the global hub of manufacturing. And India has everything, much better institutions, transparent institution, corruption-free governance model also is there, legal system is there, democracy is there. So these many of the industries globally would like to shift their manufacturing base as an alternative, not close that and come here, but as an alternative. People are thinking after the COVID that they should have an alternative manufacturing base. So India can be a good base place for risk diversion strategy of global manufacturing. So that also gives an opportunity for Indian manufacturing. I am very bullish on the Indian economy. We have to be very active. We have to be participative in the democracy. We have to be active in the policy intervention and vocal, and create a narration that sometimes we feel I'm not saying that fight a election. Voting in itself is sufficiently sufficient for anybody to participate in the rightful decision on the voting time is important. In addition, but do help in the building narration, creating narration. That is important, I think. So I am very hopeful that with the future, in near future, Indian economy will definitely see a V-shaped recovery, and the most beneficial from this recovery will be the middle class. They need employment, they need entrepreneurship, they need support. Even one area that we are working about is unorganized sector, bringing it into the formal sector. Lot of our middle class is working in the unorganized sector, small businesses, etc. They also need to be brought into the formal or organized sector. That also several initiatives have been taken by the government to formalize the economy.
Thank you, Mr. Agarwal, for this conversation. I'm sure it's going to inspire a lot of people in the middle class families across India. And from the Middle Class Hub team, I wish you a great year ahead and appreciate you talking to us, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. My best wishes. And I hope we all see a very good and robust budget this year and strong economy. The earlier we work towards getting the COVID vaccine will also help us a lot. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Alankar, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
It's a pleasure, sir. It's an honor speaking to you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.